Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to decode what is probably the ultimate paradox of the modern human experience. I mean, think about it. Feeling entirely, completely isolated while standing right in the middle of a crowded room. You talk to people every single day, you laugh with them, you hang out. So why on earth do you still feel totally alone? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down today. Let's get right into the mechanics of it. Okay, so let's dive into this core question. I really want you to imagine this scenario. You're at a party. The music is thumping so loud you can literally feel it vibrating in your teeth, right? You're surrounded by people you've known for years. You're laughing at the jokes, you're nodding along at all the perfect times. But underneath the whole shebang, there's this low, mechanical buzz of loneliness just humming away. It sounds totally different from normal sadness, doesn't it? You honestly start wondering, wait, am I just some kind of glitch in the system?
It literally feels like there's a thick, heavy sheet of plexiglass right between you and everyone else in that room. Like you're there, but you're not actually there. Now, what's absolutely crucial for us to understand today is that feeling this way, feeling so incredibly lonely in a crowd, is actually a structural social problem. It is not just a personal glitch. It's not a you problem. It's an entire complex system of hierarchies.
So let's descend into what we're calling the underworld of social connection, starting right here at the bottom with level 1, the social watcher.
This whole cycle of isolation usually kicks off with you as the watcher. Notice how your only real job at this stage is to just sit on a plastic chair on the edge of the circle and map things out. You're basically acting as social furniture. You're unmarked, you're trying your absolute best not to be memorable, because, the first rule of wearing a social mask is to not be too interesting. You just sit back and watch who is on the group's payroll, who the heavy hitters are that you need to dodge, and which of your so-called friends are actually rival scouts taking notes on your behavior.
You're sitting in this incredibly volatile environment, what we can call a meth lab of gossip and surface-level talk. And you tell yourself the trade-off is totally worth it, right? Maybe you've got nice new shoes out of it, or you simply get the status of being invited. But man, that chemical smell is still there. You're basically trading genuine human connection for a completely fake social circle, where literally nobody's looking at your actual face or talking about anything real.
All right, moving right along, we hit level 2, identity erosion. Let's see how this builds up. Eventually, you hit a breaking point. On one side, you've got this factory bench script. This is a completely fake version of yourself you've been carefully building for months, maybe even years. You've practiced the accent of your social circle so much that you literally start dreaming in it. You've memorized the childhood memories of the person your friends think you are, but then on the flip side is your real history and your true fears. And they are becoming harder and harder to even reach.
So here's where it gets crazy. You eventually hit this terrifying milestone where the cover actually holds. A friend calls you by this fake identity, and you respond naturally, just the exact way a person responds to their real name. In that split second, you honestly don't know whether to feel relieved or completely terrified. Because you've become a repeat offender caught in a trap of your own making. You're just too busy counting the successes of being liked to realize you can't even locate your actual self anymore.
And that plunges us into level 3. The blood ritual of loyalty. See, at this stage, you aren't just fitting in anymore. You become an enforcer with absolutely zero escape clause. You are bound for life. You start using social violence, not physical but social, to drown out secrets and enforce the super strict rules of the group's little gambling den. If someone betrays the unspoken oaths, you shut down their rival opinions. Your main job is to protect the group's fragile ego at all costs.
But what's genuinely tragic here is the cost of all this enforcement. When you look back at your memories, maybe sitting alone in the hospital cafeteria of your mind, you realize you don't even recognize yourself. You have effectively destroyed that passionate, self-defending kid inside of you just to maintain your social status. You, quote-unquote, killed that part of yourself simply because the group dynamic told you to do it. You went looking for the gift of connection, and instead you accepted a lifelong trap of service.
Which brings us to level 4, the golden cage, the absolute top of the food chain.
On paper, you've made it. You are the plaza boss, the regional chief. You've got the armored SUV of a perfectly curated Instagram feed, and you're out there negotiating with the governors of your social circles. You hold the gold-plated pistol of high status. But the reality behind closed doors? You trust absolutely no one, not even your right-hand friends. You are constantly scanning the faces at the airport of your social gatherings, always looking for the DEA agents of your own insecurities, just terrified that someone is finally going to expose you.
And here is the ultimate paradox of being the plaza boss. Power is just isolation with better furniture. Having everything you could ever want socially, The invites, the admiration, all the likes, it leaves you with absolutely nothing you actually need. You can't even attend a meaningful life event without feeling like a sniper of judgment is waiting in the wings for you. You traded your personal freedom for power, and now you're entirely alone.
And that terrifying realization brings us to the final destination, Level 5, the supermax of the mind.
Just look at this number, 23. You are locked in isolation 23 hours a day, in a prison cell of your very own making. Sure, you might have a massive empire of acquaintances, but mentally, you are staring at 4 blank concrete walls. You are essentially a dead man waiting, surrounded by nothing but the ghosts of the authentic selves you killed to get there. And you want to know the most heartbreaking part of the whole thing? The prison door is wide open. The shackles didn't start at the prison gates. They started the exact moment you said yes to the easy money of superficial belonging.
Okay, so how do we break out of this? It's time for the jailbreak. Let's get into a survival guide.
We're going to rapidly run through these 5 actionable steps to stage your jailbreak and finally escape this social cartel. Step 1 is simple. Acknowledge the false alarms. All those blaring missile threats in your head telling you, hey, if I'm real, they'll leave me. Those are just computer glitches. The world is not going to end just because you decide to be honest.
Step 2 is absolutely vital. You've got to stop acting like a mule. Right now, you are carrying 30 kilos of other people's heavy expectations, desperately trying to smuggle their happiness across the border of your own mental health. Listen, if those suitcases are too heavy, you have to be willing to drop them and walk away empty-handed. Yeah, you might be socially broke for a little bit, but for the first time in forever, you're going to be free.
Next up, step 3. You need to burn the folder. Entirely destroy that factory worker persona. Lose the fake accent you've practiced for so long. Sometimes this actually means you have to pull a vanishing act for 3 days. Step completely away from the crowd and just sit in silence. Do it just to relearn your own name and remember exactly who you were before you started trying so hard to fit in. Then, for step 4, find a chaplain. You need to secure your last meal with just one person. Someone you don't have to sign social documents with. Look, this is going to be a super awkward conversation, but it's going to be a completely truthful one. Even if there is still a sheet of plexiglass between you for a little while, embracing that awkward honesty to find real truth is 1,000,000 times better than spending 20 years living inside a box. Finally, step 5. Realize that luck isn't a strategy. You have to respond with maximum force. Because the harsh reality here is that the cartel of social expectations does not die when you retire. When you decide to leave that fake friend hierarchy, someone else, another kid, will always be waiting right there to take your plastic chair. The machine is going to keep humming without you. But here's the beautiful part. You don't have to be a cog in that machine anymore. You don't have to be a legend, and you sure don't have to be a cautionary tale either. You can just be a person. You can finally drop the heavy shackles of superficial belonging, step right out of that golden cage, and just walk free. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought for our explainer today. We spend so much of our lives absolutely agonizing over our social standing. But maybe the real question isn't how many people surround you at the party. Maybe the real question you need to ask yourself tonight is, who truly knows me? Who is actually seeing the real you? Think about that for a second and start planning your jailbreak.